Good night, everyone. Doing tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Armin J. Spiritual Divine. I'm here to give you a word on today, and the topic gonna be the women who followed Jesus. They were true disciples. Now, the men wasn't the only one that followed Jesus. They had some women that followed Jesus also, and they followed Jesus all the way into his death. And it was the first one to get to get to the temple to notice that Jesus was gone. This passage about not only Jesus had 12 men disciples, but also had three women married, had both of them married, and someone, and as a disciple who followed him up into his death. Now these women here, they loved Jesus. They care for Jesus. They came with their own research. They cook for them, clean their clothes. I mean, there was good women to have along with them. So now these three women who followed Jesus, they knew they would be leaving. Knew that Jesus was gonna be leaving tomorrow on their journey. So they were trying to hurry up and get everything prepared. Cause see, these women, they was good for Jesus and the crew. Cause they was getting food together and stuff. She said she know they was gonna be hungry. You know, so she know they were gonna be hungry and needed somewhere to sleep. So she provide for Jesus. Not only did Jesus, but the disciples too. And to follow Jesus, these women left homes, family, um their possession, so they had to leave everything to follow Jesus. Just like the men, they had to leave everything to follow Jesus, and also these women too. They love homes and everything. So like I said earlier, you have to leave everything to follow Jesus. You have to leave everything. Remember that ruler, he didn't want to leave nothing. So that means he couldn't follow Jesus. Now these women here, they was stable in homes and all this kind of stuff. These ladies here left their home, left everything to follow Jesus. You know, um, they also had faith in Jesus, to believe, and they believe his message. So that's why they were so willing to follow Jesus, because they heard Jesus preach. So they had faith in Jesus and they want to follow along with him to continue on learning that word. So they follow him even to his death. So it seemed like they needed these women to travel with them. Seemed like they needed these women to travel with them. These women here washing their clothes, cooking for them, giving somewhere to sleep. So they needed these women to be with them. They come with their own research to help to provide for the disciples. Food, water, clean clothes. Give them somewhere to stay. These were women was true disciples. These were some true disciples. Now God had chosen and prepared them especially to fill this role. That's why they fit in so well. Because God had chosen them, and prepared them especially for this role. So that's why they fit so well, doing so well. And so they also had the Israelite. But God had chose them to follow Jesus. Because Jesus was over them for a little while too. So God chose these three women right here. And the Israelite, they was watching from a distance. Among them was married, because God and Jesus and chose the Israelite. Jesus chose these three women right here. And they left everything to follow Jesus. Jesus had to ask them twice. They followed. So remember, Jesus was over the Israelite for a little while. But now Jesus on his journey. So these three women followed Jesus, not they. These three women followed Jesus, not the women of Israel. They watched from a distance. So now Jesus is valued. Jesus valued these women. Jesus cared for these women. He valued this woman. And because he is a good person, he is an amazing person. He's an amazing person on earth. So now these women are alone. Now, Jesus is not married also. But he was concerned that these women was alone and didn't have no one. So Jesus told them it's not good for a man to be alone. So Jesus cared for them. He cared for them, and Jesus never ignored them. He never ignored them. He never paid more attention to the men disciples than the ladies. He did not ignore them at all. He always gave them attention. So he included them. So Jesus affirmed that the word of the women by breaking down the boundary put on women in that culture. So he included them in his life and ministry, teaching them, listening to them, and affirmed their worth as children of God. So Jesus always included them in everything. Just like the men disciple, he treated them the same way too. And he was teaching them, and they was listening. That's what they want. They wanted to follow Jesus, continue on hearing that word. Cling to him. Wherever his energy was, they wanted to cling to him, and learn that word. Because he was a good teacher. So godly women complied, complied, complied with godly men. So I'm quite sure they all got along, in the ministry and worked in the service also. They were working in the church. This woman was needed. This woman was working when no matter what it was at, they was working. So Jesus never married, but he was concerned that they was alone. He said it's not good for a man to be alone. And he was alone. So he was very concerned about the ladies. Now these women provide their own research. And they also left everything to follow Jesus. And they care for Jesus and his need. They cook, prepare, give him somewhere to sleep. It's just like I told you earlier, that women can do whatever a man can do. You got women judges, you got women running for president, you got women doing everything now. So now you got these ladies, disciples, following Jesus. So now these women was true disciples. They were true disciples. They did everything that needs to be done. You didn't have to ask them twice. You didn't have to tell them twice. They just automatically got everything done. So these women were chosen from God. Israel women was not chosen um to follow Jesus. Now we see that these three women needed. So God prepared them especially to fill this role. And that's why they does it so well. Because God provide, God designed them to do this here. Sometimes God designed all us different. All us have different gifts. So God designed them to play this role with Jesus. So first the women were chosen by God, especially for this role that they playing with Jesus being as disciple. Two, they was needed and they provide and had their own research to help. So these wasn't ladies that came just to ride with these men and just sit on the butt because there was a lady. These ladies here, they work. They work. There wasn't no ladies. They work. They cook and clean, and fed not just on the Jesus, but fed all of them. Took care of all of them. So three, they take care of Jesus in his need. You know, uh, they had faith. That's why they followed Jesus because they had faith. So for Jesus cared for them and had and valued these women. So Jesus took a liking to this woman. He valued this woman very well. So now we have ladies disciples. Us ladies, you can be whatever you choose to be. So five, they was willing to follow because they trust Jesus. You know, they trust Jesus, and they was listening when he was preaching in his ministry. So that's another reason why they always was listening. Six, they left everything behind to follow Jesus. Just like the disciples had to do. The ladies had to do the same thing. They had and then they weren't like the disciples. They had homes, possessions, everything. They had to leave everything at home. They weren't like that ruler. That ruler was rich and he didn't want to leave nothing behind. But these ladies here, these ladies left everything behind to follow Jesus. They were true disciples. So 7, they follow all the way into his death. They loved him that much. And it was the first one at the stone to realize Jesus was gone. So this was a good thing that they had women disciples. And Jesus didn't treat them no different. Jesus never ignored them. Jesus talked to his disciples and talked to the lady disciples too. So us ladies, we can do whatever we set our mind to do. Just true disciples as women. Then you got Deborah as a judge. So we can women can do whatever you set your mind to do. So these was the ladies that followed Jesus, and Jesus valued these ladies, and these ladies also loved Jesus, and they was willing to follow him on his journey. So I hope y'all enjoyed this package, and remember that us ladies, we could do whatever we would set our mind to do. You know, Jesus had ladies disciples follow him, and they were true disciples. They cared for Jesus very much all the way to the end of his days. So I hope y'all enjoy this package, and I see y'all on the next video.